I'm Julian Sharp. I'm going to be taking you through for the next hour, see how we get on. Um, so, in this webinar, we'll be looking at the importance of getting actionable insights for your business and how we can use Power BI and Fabric to do that uh, with less effort and create better results. Just in general, if you have any questions, you can use the chat. Please do that. Um, and you can this is being recorded, just to let you know that. But you can use the chat or maybe stick your hand up. We'll see how we get on. But use the chat first, if that's possible, and I'll see if I'm picking up. So why do we want to look at, say, Fabric and Power BI? I don't really like people using fireflies and other things to capture notes. So please don't. The recording is going to be made available for you. So those of you who are using those. Um, so yeah, I don't want, yeah, because using third-party solutions is not really very good. So I'm just going to look at that for a second. So please don't use those. Um, and let me just sort that out. So yeah, use the chat, please, where possible, rather than recording. Yeah, I find it a bit annoying. You can do it in your own business, but not for here. Sorry about that. Oh, yeah, so that's throwing me. So when we look at sorry, that's throwing me. Sorry. We look at some of the challenges that face organizations, what the challenge we're really trying to look at here. Organizations face many issues trying to get access or maximize the value of the data. And the data's everywhere. Data, we'll talk about this later, how it can help us. But data's different departments and systems store their data separately, making it hard to create a unified view. So you can actually get valuable insights and analytics from your data. You've also got issues over data quality and governance, um, in the sense of being able to understand having incomplete data or inaccurate data. And those can really hurt you because they lead to poor decision making. What we're really going to look at today is skills in your data teams. You lack the advanced analytics, engineering, and visualization skills to actually create what I call telling the story about our data. And I'll come back to the fact that, yeah, it's quite easy to create visualizations, but can I create good visualizations that A, contain the right data, and B, actually help people make decisions, help them understand what's going on and make proper informed decisions? And then we may have issues with integration and scalability. You've got large amounts of data volumes, and getting, say, up to getting more accurate real-time insights becomes harder. We can't wait till the end of the month. We need things in real time. So that's something else you need to understand about this, about understanding where we are going. When I see organizations, some of the best performing organizations don't just collect data, they put it to work in a single unified view of their operational data underpinned by strong governance. During this webinar, we'll look at the capabilities of Power BI and Fabric, showing you how you can get a simplified analysis across your data estate and understand the skills you need and where the learning is available. Now, a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, I do recognize some of the names on here. I've taught quite a few of you. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and I deliver solutions. I've been delivering business solutions my entire career. And now focus around Power Platform and now particularly AI. Um, um, pretty much every solution I've developed in the last few years has used Power BI for its analytics. And I regularly teach both Power BI and Fabric. I was teaching Fabric last week. So I want to know a little bit about you now. So I put a link in the chat, which you can go to. You can either go to the link I posted in the chat, or you can go scan the QR code, or just go to www.menti.com and then key in that code. I'm going to pop that up on screen now. So here's the QR code. See, 9 of you are signed in. It's impersonal. I don't need to know your name or anything. It just allows me to get an idea of what do you know about analytics? What do you currently use? That's what I'm trying to get at in this. Let's give people a few minutes to get in. All right, some of you signed in. Let's have a look at the first slide. So, what do you currently use for analytics? And I knew it was going to be top Excel. It is the number one tool in here. Lot of you already use Power BI, and actually some of you already use Fabric. That's great. But there's lots of other tools. I could have gone on for a long, long list. I decided to call it a day after a while. So some of you Tableau. I've been using SAS or SAS for a long time. I like SAS. I know a number of companies use Click. One of my customers use Click. Nobody's using Azure Synapse, but you've still got things like Azure Databricks or Apache Spark is coming in. But just seeing that the numbers here is pretty much what I expected. Power BI is higher than I thought. And I think that just shows that Power BI is quite widely used, which means I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this talk about Power BI because you already know it. So I may just skip through that and get onto Fabric. But this just helps me. So let's wait for a few more numbers. Yeah, this sort of I was expecting fewer on Power BI, more on Excel, but yeah, that's pretty much everybody uses Excel. And to be honest, before Power BI came apart, Microsoft were pushing Excel as the business intelligence consumption tool, and it's got some really nice features. We can connect to data, we can create graphs and visualizations, and I still use it for some of my customers where they just want Excel or they've got pivot tables and charts and slice and dice the data. So let's have a look at the next slide. Yeah, Ooh, yeah, Power BI. So some of you, this is just to give you an idea for those of you who did say yes to Power BI, how many it was. And Power BI is over 10 years old. It just had its 10th anniversary. So it's been around for a long time. And Power BI is actually one of my favorite tools because you can get working with it quickly. It exposes more capabilities the more you use it. So it's very, very easy to get used with. Let's have a look at Fabric. So these are some of the skills that you might need to have. It's a mixture of skills. And one thing, when you get into things like Power BI, yes, we need the Power Query is probably the key skill. I would have thought maybe a bit of DAX. I didn't have that. I didn't put DAX on there. But when you get into maybe Fabric, we have a wider range of skills. Now, Microsoft, I was going to talk about this later, but Microsoft doesn't require that you need to know T-SQL or Spark or PySpark. You can use the tools and skills and languages that you have experience, you're comfortable with. Okay, so, but I will discuss that. But I think to actually be a good person, data analyst or engineer, you need T-SQL. You need to understand custom query language. Yeah, you start. I come from a SQL background. I used to be a DBA a long time ago, so SQL is quite natural to me. But I found I needed to use all of these. Power Query I use a lot. Um, I'm quite comfortable now doing custom query language, which is very good for doing analyzing log. KQL is used in lots of things, not just in analytics. It's used in things like in Azure and when you analyze log files. And I've been using Spark and PySpark a little bit as well. So there are some skills, and depending where you're going, you'll need to get familiar with those. So this is for me to help you. We've got lots of answers here. How to use Power BI, getting live data, how Fabric. One of the key things I'm going to talk about is how Fabric integrates with Power BI. How does Power BI work? Yeah, we'll cover that. Does Fabric require a license? Oh, yes. Yeah. And you need deep pockets for Fabric. Best tools to ingest. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about that. How do we control data? Yeah, make it safe. Really big, strong on governance. And I think that's one of the things we'll talk about. I'll cover that. How can I be good on DAX? Training. We'll talk about, actually, with DAX, what I found is we've now got Copilot in Power BI and Copilot in Fabric. And what I found is some of the Copilot not very useful. I found it very useful for writing DAX. I found it's very, very good. I explain what I want in natural language and it generates the DAX for me. So I think the need to be an expert in DAX has gone away. And actually, when I've been testing it and trying it out, the Copilot has generated quite a lot of good DAX for me. So yeah, those questions. I'll come back to those. And we'll see those at the end and see if we've answered those. Do you think Excel will finish in future? Oh God, no. Excel's the most widely used application there is. There's no way Excel will ever disappear. I've seen companies run on Excel. I once actually did this at one of my customers because I had an issue. I thought everyone was working off system in Excel and I wanted to prove it. So I actually set up a group policy and I got them persuaded to turn off Excel. The screams were huge. We had to turn it back on within a couple of hours. Let's now move on. The agenda today uh, is really looking at how and why creating a single unified view of your data is important. What's a game changer? We'll look how Power BI and Fabric work. We'll then look at the skills you require in a modern data team, and then how do we go with upskilling that? What's learnings available? And then summarize really at the end about how that makes a difference to your business. So let's start off with one of my favorite slides. I love this slide. So why is a unified view of your operational data important? Well, often when you're a data analyst, you spend most of your time. I mean, when I teach, say, Power BI, for instance, we talk about the fact that actually creating the visualizations is the easy bit. The hard bit is finding your data. The hard bit is where is that data? What does it mean? How can I get access to it? And you need to have to hunt around for the data you need to make decisions, and that's not easy. It's very time consuming. It's very difficult. And a lot of that is trying to figure out what the data means. So, what's this table? What these columns do they actually mean, and are they relevant to what I want? And how does it relate to my other data? So, finding where your data is important. And we really want to get a single unified view of our data because it transforms how organizations make decisions and optimize processes and response to challenges. And some of our best customers, we've done this, we've unified the data. They've got a single place where all the data is so we can analyze it. We pull it from multiple different systems so we can then go and make informed business decisions. So let's talk through some of these. So data silos, you've got data scattered in multiple systems, finance, supply chain, CRM, feedback, support. And those data has inconsistencies. And you often spend a lot of time in those different silos. And I've been had this painful before where I've been producing reports out of my system and somebody else has been reporting reports out of their system. We don't agree and we spend hours arguing about which one's right. That's not the best thing to do. We want to have a single source of truth. And that's what we're going to do with that. And from that comes, if we can get that more real time, where we get the data's up to date. We're not having to wait till the end of the month. I've been through companies where they can't do this until they only do this monthly. We want it not just daily. We want it up to the minute. If we get up to the date consolidated data, we can make faster, more accurate decisions instead of relying on what did it say last day and yeah, we got the figures from last month where things had already changed. And we get a holistic picture of our operations, and that helps reduce inefficiency. Where we're going to have automated workflows and integrated analytics, saving time, reducing errors. We can enable predictions. If we've got all our operational data together, we can start applying AI to it. AI is more important now than ever. but we need to have the data so we can actually go in the, and also the right structure, so we can perform, use it on AI, use it in Copilot, use it as knowledge for our agents to do that. And it'll help us maybe predict things before they arise. So I've worked a lot in the past in field service with IoT devices, and we use that. We monitor the telemetry data coming in, and we try and create predictions of when something's going to fail, so we can fix it before it fails, so we can keep the operation running. We can enable collaboration because they share this, departments share the same information, improves communication. Yeah, so we used to spend arguing about the report difference in data between departments. We get rid of that. And it also helps us when we deal with customers because we can personalize services with the relevant data, increase customer satisfaction and loyalty. So getting your data as an integrated place for it is really, really important. I'd say one of the most important for me is enabling business leaders to make decisions because it reduces the risk to the business, allows us to respond faster because we can see what's happening and predicts what may happen. So, for instance, here we talk about retailer seeing inventory and sales trends rather, supply performance in one dashboard, enabling them to say manage their stock more proactively. The issue is that sounds nice and easy in theory. In practice, it's hard. As I say, we spend a lot of our time as data people finding where the data is. We have to go look at the different applications which have different data formats and data structures and running on different databases with different tools. Connecting especially to legacy applications, third-party platforms, with different APIs, that could be hard. I mean, I've done the thing where we've had to extract out via an ODBC connection to pull it into a CSV file so we can then import it in. Sometimes we are really restricted by what is there, the complexity. The next one for me, data quality. You get inconsistent data. What does that data mean? How good is it? How clean is it? And often we need to pre-process and cleanse the data. And and you get, if you've got poor data governance within your organization, that can really derail your efforts to create good analytics. And we're getting more and more data than ever before. Huge volumes of data coming in. And you need a reliable, robust architecture to be able to process that data in a timely way. And if you badly design your data ingestion and modeling, that could lead to slow performance. I've got a customer which I didn't build this Power BI report, but it actually takes half an hour to open it, to edit it in Power BI desktop. Literally, you open it, and actually, it takes all the memory on my computer. I had to upgrade the memory just to open it. And then you make a change, and then it takes half an hour to make the change because it's really badly designed. It's trying to do it the wrong way. It's got a bad modeling design in it, far too many measures and things like that. It has a lot of issues. And I really want to restart it from scratch, but it works on a runtime basis, but it's editing its data. And then you've also got things like compliance. Making sure we're using the data in the right way, making sure we only give access to data through analytics that they're entitled to. One of the issues you face with analytics is we're pulling all this data in as an admin. We're getting all the data and then giving it back to the users, but the users can then suddenly see data they're not entitled to. So we need to make sure that you give the right level of, set the right level of security. So what makes it easier? Well, modern data platforms, and that's what we're really here to talk about. And it's not just Fabric. We talked about on the list Databricks. There are a number of different platforms out there that help with this, with simplifying integration, providing extract, transform, or load tools, or what we now move to is export, load, and transform tools, such as Power Query, Data Factory. We're going to talk about some of those in here to automate the data ingestion and cleansing and transformation. We now have lots of connectors for popular software as a service applications and services to help reduce the requirement for manual processing and even custom coding. And we really want to look for good data governance frameworks to ensure consistency and trust. And that's what we want with a modern data platform. So how do I get there? And I think it's really just first pick your tool, first pick your platform. Now, one of these things when you go into doing this, you having a mixture of platforms and tools from doing your analytics causes issues, and sometimes you can't avoid that. But often things like yes, with Power BI, I can use Power BI on lots of different things. But when I want Power BI only goes so far. For me, we're going to talk about how Fabric goes further into a proper modern data platform. But if you're choosing that platform, it is a platform for everything. And you need to understand what that means. So I've got customers who use Power BI but won't use Fabric because they've actually chosen a different platform. They still use Power BI for the visualizations, but they've got different platforms. But here we're going to talk about Fabric as a platform. So make sure you pick the right platform, you understand what it's there, understand how you're going to manage and govern it with that. And we'll talk about some of that as we go through. So let's look now about Fabric and Power BI and Microsoft Fabric streamline our data analysis and insight generation. That's what we're going to switch to now. And what we can do. So we're going to look at how we can create an end-to-end analytics ecosystem. So first off, Power BI, well, Fabric and Power BI. So together, Power BI and Fabric can work together. So one of the people asked the question, how do they work together? So if I'm using Fabric, Fabric does a lot of the work. We do the ingestion of the data, we transform it, we model it, we perform it to get insights on it. And essentially Power BI at that point just becomes the visualization part. And we use Power BI to connect to the model. Now, I'll talk about how we do Power BI later, but just understand Power BI is just one of the workloads within Fabric. So what do we get with Fabric and Power BI? We get a unified data foundation. Fabric provides a single lake, it's a lake-centric data lake. So we talk about a thing called One Lake, where all of our data, both structured and unstructured, resides. So first of all, it has a single architecture which covers all the different workloads. And then what you can do is you've got your different workloads on top of that, such as data engineering, data analytics, real-time analytics, be able to do your own data modeling. So not just that, sorry, data machine learning. Yes, machine learning built in. And also we've now got agents. We can now build agents on top of Fabric data, all in one platform. We generally don't talk about the different workloads. You generally talk about the different features of Fabric. And what that does is allow us, and by having Fabric, we don't have to move the data around so much. We have all the systems working on one set of data. We're not constantly moving the data around. So say that traditionally, if I want to do machine learning, I'd have to move or copy the data into the machine learning workspace. I don't need to do that. If I'm creating a data warehouse, we can link it to data in the lake. I don't need to copy it. So we reduce the number of copying, reduce the amount of movement. I'll talk about some of the other features we get within the Lakehouse. And what we get is with Fabric, we get a seamless integration with Power BI. Power BI can access that same lake of data. Again, without having to copy it into Power BI. So if you've used Power BI in the past, you've probably done ingestion into Power BI, created your semantic model or data. I'm still going to say data set. You create a semantic model, then you do visualization of that. In Power BI, we just connect to the model and the data in One Lake. We've got a new type of connection called, you may in Power BI know you've got things like direct query and import for your data. We've now got a thing called direct lake. So if you connect to One Lake, it's connected to that data. It's just reading it directly from the lake. It's not going to copy it. And you'll find that direct lake is faster than direct query. It's faster than import. It's an option. So Power BI can then also build reusable models on top of Fabric models. If you want to go that far, we can create specific models either in Fabric or in Power BI. And really, Power BI just becomes the self-service visualization engine without requiring heavy IT processes. So let's just talk a bit about Power BI, because I know that some of you don't know Power BI. And really, this really goes to the heart of data analytics. We live in a culture where decisions should be based on facts. It says are based, that some should be. And too many decisions are based on feelings or opinions rather than facts on data. We really need data to make those decisions, so you can help it. And the trouble is, you've got data everywhere. You've got reports, you've got spreadsheets, you've got emails with charts, you've even got printed handouts. So we need to get all that data and understand how to make sense of it. This is really what Power BI can do. I mean, Power BI on its own is great. I mean, it hasn't become the leading business intelligence tool for nothing. So I'm just going to do a little video here. Hopefully you can hear this. Just talk about what Power BI is.
When it comes to data, the faster you can turn this into this, the faster you can understand and use it all to make your business run better. With Microsoft Power BI, you can quickly connect to data, prep it, model and visualize as much or as little as you like, then securely share insights. Even embed it all into your app or website. To get started, download the free Power BI desktop application and hop right in. Soon you'll be connecting to hundreds of data sources on-premise or in the cloud, like Excel, Salesforce, Google Analytics, social networks, even IoT devices to get real-time information, and turning all that data into live interactive visuals. When you get the hang of that, upgrade to Pro. You'll need that to start collaborating freely, creating dashboards that deliver a 360-degree real-time view of your business, control how your data is accessed and used, and to package and deliver your stunning new content to users with apps of their own. The premium version is for really scaling up across larger enterprises and embedding content past your own digital properties without per-user licenses. And one more thing, want it all on mobile so you can react to changes on the fly? Here you go. With Power BI, we make it easy to always be in compliance too, for things like GDPR. Download the free Power BI application today and start turning your data into smarter decisions for your business.
Okay, thanks, Microsoft, for that. So Power BI allows you to actually do the full end-to-end analytics. We normally try and say Power BI is your departmental level analytics for doing this, where we go connect to data and unlock that data, create actual insights on your data. And we try and separate out things between, say, departmental business intelligence and analytics versus enterprise. But I think that line is blurred a lot because Power BI has a huge amount of capability. Really, what we just saw there was just a quick view. But what you can do with Power BI, you can connect to multiple different data sources. So Power BI Desktop is a Windows application. It's free, as they say. You can download. It's on Windows 11. You can download it from the Windows Store and run. And it's actually free to use. You only start paying when you move to push the data to the cloud and share it with other people. So Power BI Desktop is a really powerful tool for connecting to data, transforming it, cleansing it, then modeling it, creating metrics with DAX, such as measures. And then we go create our visualizations, so our individual charts and maps and whatever type. And there's lots and lots of different types of visualization. We then publish it up to the cloud, to the Power BI service. And the Power BI service is where we start sharing that with other people. Now, it is technically possible to just use the Power BI service on its own. You can connect to data on its own, just use Power BI service and create your visualizations and share from there. But to be honest, if you're doing this seriously, Power BI Desktop is the tool because it allows us to connect and mash up our data. And really, Power BI service is where we're at. So if I'm just going to go quickly into my little system, I'm in Fabric here. I'm just going to switch down the bottom to Power BI. So I'm in the Power BI service here. And let's just go and have a look at, say, this workspace. we're in. So I'm just going to switch to my workspace. There's a workspace here. Go to dashboard and just do that dashboard of the day, I think here. And here we can see stuff that's been published up from Power BI desktop. I've got a model, and I've got a report, and I've got a dashboard that's been built, which I can then interact with. And the nice thing so if you've not seen Power BI, I know most of you have, this is going to be quite quick, the ability to see lots and lots of data and see it in different ways, and then drill down into the data. So let's drill down into this visual and go in and see what's underneath it. We're drilling down into the Power BI report where I can see more information. And then I can go filter and look at this data. Let's drill down into the USA, and we get interactive reports which allow us to see what's going on with our data. We've got some really nice features. So I can go drill down what's in the urban, and a little bit here, breaking down by different products. I've got the ability to do drill down to the next level, expand to the next level, so go down and see hierarchies of data. And if I want, maybe go see extra information on that. I've got tooltips, other things that we can see. And also I can filter by different manufacturers here. You see you get this nice little way of looking at our data. I'm not going to spend a long time, but that's just really Power BI on there. On that. So Power BI, we can use it. The issue comes when you get to wanting to do more across your entire organization. Often you will need to go into, okay, I need more tools to transform the data. I'm probably working with larger data volumes, because with Power BI, there is a limit on the size of your data. And Fabric allows us to go a lot further. So here's have a look at Fabric. So this is one of Microsoft's favorite diagrams for Fabric. So Fabric is really the grouping together of a whole load of different services that Microsoft provided. A lot of these came from existing components, such as Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory you might have come across to help perform pipelines and transforming data, ingesting and transforming data. It can do very high volumes of data. It's not exactly Azure Data Factory, it's based on it. We've also got our warehousing. That comes from Azure Synapse Analytics, which is the modern version of SQL Server warehousing, but can handle petabytes of data, doing analysis on that. So we've got Data Factory, we've got data warehousing. We can do data science as well if we want. We've got Power BI in there as well. But then there's new features, such as the ability to do data science and do more features around other tools for data engineering. So it gives, but the really important thing about Fabric on here is we have these different tools, but the data sits in the one lake. So one lake is a single source of all the data, and all the tools are able to natively access the data using whatever tool. So in Data Warehouse, we can use T-SQL. With data engineering, we can use pipelines or data flows, or we can use PySpark. It's up to us. When we're in, say, real time, we can access and run queries using Custo. So or SQL. We can use what we want natively. We don't have to do any transformations. We don't have to do any copying of data. And you might see, for those of you into security and governance, everything's underpinned by Microsoft Purview. So that gives us a lot of ways on data discovery, data classification. We can apply sensitivity labels. So if your organization uses Microsoft 365 information protection, which is now part of Purview, we can apply sensitivity labels across our data estate. So we can then, so therefore governance is built in to Fabric by default. Governance powered by Purview, and that basically gets around some of the issues which a couple of you asked about security and governance. Fabric provides that. Basically, I know I've spent a lot of my time in the past figuring out, okay, who's got the data, where is it, who can have access to it. We can track governance. Fabric and Purview allow us to not. Well, they take care of that. We focus on building our best results, getting our best analytics out. So other things, other advantages, we get consistent interface as well. We can use some third-party tools. For instance, if you're still using things like Tabular Editor, is it Tabular Editor? Yeah, you can use that with Fabric just as you can with Power BI. Tabular Editor is a third-party tool. There's a community tool and a paid-for version of Tabular Editor that allows you to go and build your data models and build more complex data models and understand what's going on. And we can use those with Fabric as well. We're not getting away from that. But for me, one of the biggest things is we've got one set of data. It's one location. We've not got multiple copies of have to have copies of the data. And we've also got AI being built into every different workload now as well, like Copilot in Fabric. And as I say, if I'm doing DAX, I use the Copilot in Power BI, but we can use it in other areas of the system. Microsoft is so strong on this, and I think it's Microsoft Ignite this week. There've been a load of announcements about AI and agents. And you can now build agents using data in Fabric. Fabric becomes a knowledge source for your agents. And it's very easy to integrate that with agents, say, built in Copilot Studio, or it's now called Microsoft Foundry. So when I look at Fabric, essentially there's a series of different workloads that you're going to do. So we can go use things like Data Factory to do pipelines to transform your data. We can use data flows, which use Power Query to move and transform data into data lake, into the one lake. It's actually Fabric runs on top of an Apache Spark platform. So it's highly scalable. It actually stores the data in one lake in what's called Delta Lake format. So Delta Lake format allows you to have the high volume, it's like data, like if you've done your data before and you've used something like Azure Data Lake, you've used a created data lake, a hierarchical storage account, you get very fast performance doing an analytics. Delta Lake gives you that high performance on high volumes with partitioning and everything that's good around that with ACID compliance. So you can actually run SQL queries on top of a Delta Lake table. It actually tracks the changes. It allows you to handle transactions, allows you to see how things have changed and versioned. So we built versioning it. So that it gives us the best of both worlds at Delta Lake, and that's what One Lake is built on. But what Microsoft has then done is allowed us to have a SQL endpoint to our lake. So we have a Lakehouse, which we can run T-SQL against. We can create data warehouses with. We're not going to have to move the data into, say, Azure Synapse. We ingest the data. We do our data engineering to get our data in the right format in one lake, and then we can start leveraging that data in different things, such as in data warehouse, or create semantic models. I don't need to have a data warehouse. I have a model. I can do a model from the Lakehouse. And then my other tools, such as data science, I can start using machine learning or Spark to go and create my own experiments within Fabric without having to move the data into Databricks or somewhere else. The real-time stuff. Well, it's Ignite this year. I was at Ignite last year. The most popular booth was the real-time. Real-time allows us to see real-time streaming data in high volumes. So, for instance, I'll give you an example where this can be really useful. You can set up, say, in SQL Server, you can enable the ability to track changes. So every time there's a data change, you can send that to your event house. So we have an event house in Fabric. So we can actually see, we get a stream of data changes. So we can actually start analyzing the data changes. So it's not just telemetry or event logs, which you might think about traditionally. We can actually look at how data is changing in real time and then run how that affects us. And then, of course, we've got Power BI. But Power BI, when you do with Fabric, essentially becomes the visualization layer. It's one of them. You don't have to use it, but you can use Power BI. It just becomes the visualization layer. Whereas if you use Power BI alone, pretty much it would do all those other things first. You do in Power BI on its own, you do the data ingestion, transformation, cleansing, modeling. You do it all in Power BI. Here, we do all all that stages inside Fabric. And then Power BI just connects to the results to create the visualizations. And it's incredibly powerful. So essentially, we use Power BI to translate the data into visualizations so people can. I talk about telling a story with the data, creating the visualization that help people understand visually. They just look at the dashboard and see what it's telling them and then make the decisions. When you get into Fabric, you need to understand this idea. The Lakehouse is one lake. It's actually a mixture. So you can store your data in a data lake. Say it's stored in Delta Lake format that we can use, and we can just use that on its own. And it presents essentially Data Lake presents those Delta Lake tables as a database with tables and views. And it also gives you a SQL endpoint, so I can just run SQL queries against my data lake. We don't need to go do that. So I'm just going to pop into mine just to show you that. So I'm going to hop into my Fabric experience, go into my workspace. I'm going to go to the Fabric workspace. And what I've got here, where's my lake? Well, my lake houses. I've got quite a few going on here. This is my mess around system. So I've got a lake house here. So I go to my lake house. We'll see in here. I'll get rid of some of those other ones that need to do anymore. So here I've just got a sales table. So I can go see this is a Delta Lake table, and I can go see the data it's previewing it. I've also got the underlying files. So I can see the underlying files that were created, and I can go if I want to see this is Delta Lake tables. I can actually see the underlying data if I want on that. If I want, I can go do queries, and I can then go create and manipulate the data on here. There's quite a lot of capabilities. It also has a SQL endpoint, so I can just go run SQL queries. So I'll just query that SQL endpoint. Did I save any queries? So again, we see more like your traditional SQL server where I see the tables. So I've got that same sales table as a table within. It just appears like that. But I can also go save some of my queries on here. So I can go see how many records there are. We can test it out. See customers by customer name. We've also got the ability to create visual queries. So visually generate our queries. This is a query. It's just to say it's actually the same query as that one, but just customer names and the count of orders, sales by customer, just so we can see that. And then you've got some I can visualize the results, not in Power BI. I can go create a little chart if it'll let me. I want to do that. That's annoying. It won't let me visualize the results. Okay. Anyway, if I want, I can see this. I can also go create a view. So I can save this query as a view. So I can go and reuse it. I think I might have done that already. So I've actually done this. So I can actually go view that as a view, which I can then use in my Power BI. So I've got the ability here to do it. And if I want, I can then just on this, we can get our data in a different way. Just if I go and I've got only notebooks here. So how I've got the data in, I've used a mixture of capabilities. I've got data flows. I've got another thing to copy the data in. I've got a notebook here. I've got here, for instance, I've got a pipeline to ingest the data. So there's a number of different tools. So if you've done Azure Data Factory, here I'm just using a simple pipeline to copy the data from a file and run a copy job to copy that data. So I can go in and copy that data around from copy it from a data source on here. So I'm going to copy the data as I need to, or run jobs. And if I want, I can go run, I've got a notebook. So if I want to run PySpark, I can. I know that's an empty one. I don't think I've actually got one saved on here. I think I do. I thought I had a notebook. No, I don't think these notebooks have anything in them. I think they're just, but if I want, here it is, yeah, so I can go run a notebook. So here I can manipulate, so I want to run PySpark, I can go run these commands if I want. So I can process the data, load it from a file. So I'm loading up data into process it. I can change it, process it and save it back out and get to do and create the data. So we have a number of different tools in here that we can use. Stop and close, yeah, I'm going to go there. So what skills do I need? I notice we've got 15 minutes left. I haven't noticed any questions. So what do I need? Well, if I'm doing Power BI, I think on its own, for Power BI, well, I think one of the biggest skills is the ability to prepare your data. Prepare your data. We need to go, and I typically use something like Power Query to shape and clean the data and get it into Power BI, into Power BI model. They need to have good modeling skills. You need to understand how to build your fact and dimension tables, create a star schema, understand relationships to allow you to do that, and then maybe create your metrics, your measures using DAX. So DAX are aggregations that you typically count, like counts or sums that you may need to do to which represent your KPIs that your business needs to show data on. So you need those. Those are for me rather the major skills. I think the data visualization, although simple, is actually quite important. Choosing the right visual is actually quite hard. Choosing how to lay out your report so you get all the visualizations. And I think when you get more into Power BI, I'm very big into using things like bookmarks and navigation, drill downs, drill throughs. You need to understand how to do all that. But I mean, essentially, you can go use Power BI very simply. It's very easy for me to create a visual, but to create really good visuals that interact properly with each other, allow people just to see what they need to see in one view. It's actually more of an art than a science, and it's something you get better at. So these are some. So visualization design is understanding things like how do I thought storytelling with data is one of mine. I like that we have to have a narrative so that somebody just looking at it can see what they need without having to spend lots of time clicking and slicing and dicing themselves. So creating those clear interactive visuals. You can also create your own custom visuals if you want. But there's also a load of third parties. One of the things that I find really annoying, there's some really great visuals available, but they are in Power BI default. You just go add them in. So Power BI desktop, so add this visual. There's a whole set of visuals that like Sankey charts. I love Sankey charts. Add them in. There's nicer slicers. I like the chiclet slicer that you should use. And most people don't go and investigate. And then as well on that, say yes, understand what KPIs are important and understand how to build those from the data, how to write this way you get into more DAX. And then, okay, how can I set up trend graphs or use things like creating scatter charts and putting a play axis so people can see how things change over time and help people choose that, or do anomaly detection. How do I show anomalies in my charts? You also need to understand things like if we're connected to data, what's the difference between direct query versus import, and what the implications of using both of those or either of those are to your users. When we come to Fabric, it's broader because you need a combination of data engineering, data analytics, and governance skills. Now, this we're going to talk about in a second, but do I expect one person to know all of this? Probably not. We tend to have different. Microsoft tends to pitch it at different roles. Like they have this idea of the different roles. Now, sometimes you may do all of it. Depends how big your organization is. But because it's an end-to-end platform, you need I think, a broader set of skills. You need those same skills for getting connected data. And I can reuse my Power Query skills to create data flows. So I want to get my data in. We have a number of different tools, one of which is data flows, which is essentially Power Query, but with some slight differences. Or if I want, I can use pipelines, which is effectively from Data Factory, or I can use Spark. And the great thing about Fabric is I can combine those together. So often what I do is I use a data flow to maybe do some extract and transform the data, but then I'll run it within a pipeline where it ends up doing other options like copy data, then transforming it, then moving the data, then making a table or whatever. And I can actually have pipelines is how I do it, because I can actually as well call notebooks for within my pipeline. So I can stitch together a very comprehensive transformation data, and I can then schedule that. So I can automate it to connecting that. So I think you need to have good data engineering skills to understand how to build that data, get it into one lake, organize it properly, and then do transformations. Whether you do the transformations by Spark, data flows, or Power Query, that's up to you. I've started to use a combination because I found different tools have different pros and cons. Then you need to create your data model. Now, this is where you can either go into data warehousing, and create your traditional data warehousing where we're using T-SQL, we go tables and views. You don't have to use data. If you're comfortable using data warehousing, you can. But the great thing is it's not moving the data. We can just reference tables in the one lake where we build the model. But we'll then we create our semantic model. So one of the big differences between Power BI and Fabric is we create our semantic models inside Fabric, whether we do that from a Lakehouse or a warehouse. So I can go into my system here. You'll see I've got, if I just go back to my workspace, we will see here I have some models, semantic models. Here's my lake model. This model here I created from the data lake. From the Lakehouse directly. And here's my tables. I just got the sales table, and I can go open that model and start doing it. I can also write my DAX inside here. It's just a single table. But if I just go back, you'll see I can actually write my DAX queries in here. And you see prep data for AI. It's also really good lineage functionality as well. So this is something that's probably not very well used in Power BI. I can look at, say, this model and say where's the data come from? How's it all linked together? So here, this is my Lakehouse semantic model that's come from this lake I can track. And if I then built something else on top of it, we'll see this. So here's another one. I've got this one here. I've built a Lakehouse. I've then built a SQL endpoint that have created a semantic model for that. And somewhere down here, I've got a warehouse somewhere on here. Where's my warehouse gone? Pretty sure I've got a warehouse in here. Yeah, I've got a warehouse and I built a model from my warehouse. This is some sample data and I can go view this data. So this is a semantic model. I can just do this in here. This is based on the New York taxi data set. So if I want to open that semantic model and see that data, just on the sample. So yes, you still need those same skills for modeling. You need the ability to write DAX formulas. And potentially you'll need to use SQL commands if I'm going to go to warehouse. We've also got real time. So the ability to see streaming data in real time and do analytics. So we work with event streams of data. Let's go back in. Go back to my here. And you might have seen I've got an event house. So I've got an event house here, which is connected to a query set, an event stream of data. I've got data coming in. And I can then go and it creates a little database. I've got some nice visualizations, and I can go run some queries. So I got run this, and this is actually I think I've got a different query set. You've got just kick you up, so I can run a query set on here to run queries on this data. So this is going to give me a 5-minute rolling window of data. So events, but by time, how many windows I've got in. That's not the best query in the world, but I've got a query showing me how many events are coming through every 5 minutes. It's about 10,000. This is sample data, maybe not by maybe grouped by event type, and I can render it as different charts if I want. And summarize data. That's not the best query. Can I do a pie chart? Pie chart's gonna be funny. I hate pie charts. Just go and it doesn't allow me to do that. But I've got the ability to run real time. And as I say, you need those. So you need, depends on, I see when you start into Fabric, I didn't think I'd use real time, but actually I have done because I've started to use it to understand how my data is changing. I say we can take event stream of data from data changes from a database. So I can see what's going on, how much is being used, as well as tracking log files and other things and analyzing those. I'd say, and then we need to understand a bit. I've had to learn a lot about Purview. I'm not really a security compliance person, but to use Fabric, I've had to learn those skills, understand how it works, how we track compliance, and then also how we do security. So there's a wide range of skills. When I look here, the different things you would do, Microsoft has this idea of data engineers, data analytics, it's not, they're called data analytics engineers or data analysts as well, and using different tools. You can come and use what you are: data science, data analysts, and decision makers. So Microsoft breaks this down by role, and that actually is a really quite cool thing called the Career Hub. This is actually on the Fabric community. So if you've not seen Fabric Community, it's a really useful site. It comes with Power BI and Fabric. There's lots of information. And this has got some information roles. What does each of these roles do? If you want to dig more, I'll point you at here. So what does the data analyst do? What's it, which parts of Fabric are they using? The tools are they using? Here, the data engineer, what are they using? I like this as a nice little guide as where I might go to learn a bit more. And just generally, the Fabric community is really good. And right now, there's an offer for Fabric exams. So if you sign up, there's a Fabric opportunity for exams vouchers. I'll see if I'll put that. I'll go grab that link and put it in the chat afterwards. I didn't have it ready. So really, the 3-step plan. What you need to do really is assess what your current skills are. And what do you need? Are you going to use Power BI? Are you going to use Fabric? And then see what skills you have. Now, you'll find a lot of people, I think, have a lot of skills. They'll have skills in manipulating data. They'll have skills in transforming data. Maybe some analytic skills. But basically, we need to see where's our gap. An idea maybe to do this is to go and create a little skills matrix. Like I say, look what I've talked to you. What skills do you think I need? Do I need more on DAX? Do I need more on Power Query? Go down to quite a low level of skills, and then see what your skills you've got, and then see what you need. Then from that, you can look at different pathways. So maybe you might need people who need to learn more about Power BI or visualization, so they can go maybe do the like dashboard in a day course to learn how to build simple things. Or you might need more intermediate skills on DAX and data modeling or Fabric Lakehouse concepts. And then more advanced is maybe on, say, some of the data engineering side or governance or integration. And we have quite a lot of resources available to it. We've got lots in Microsoft Learn. The Microsoft documentation is good, but I think when you look at Fabric, you need to understand where you're going and then measure how you're going. So what we have in Power BI is a number of courses. Now we have what used to be called the Data Fundamentals, the DP 900. This actually introduces you to the concepts of data, but also into Power BI and to Fabric. It's a good beginner introduction to understand what data is and what analytics is. We also run a thing called Dashboard in a Day, which is really for beginners to how can I go build a dashboard. So I think in mine here, if I actually had, I'll go back to my Power BI and go to workspaces, we basically teach you how to build this dashboard. So you'll end up with this Van Artel dashboard. The one I just showed you, you build that in a day and how it works. And it's quite impressive how much you can do with this. And this is the target of what you build in that day. There's also a course I teach called Advanced Visualizations in a Day, which is really about how to design a dashboard. It's the art or science behind choosing your visualizations. And then the next course is Power BI Data Analyst, which is the departmental analyst where we use Power BI for everything. And for me, I'm actually teaching that next week. It's a really good course. It's probably one of Microsoft's top 3 or 4 courses on that. So it's quite it's very, very popular 3-day course. Goes through the data. We actually it's quite interesting. You don't actually start creating a visualization until beginning of day 3. Okay, because that's the easy bit. We focus on the data preparation, ingestion, and getting it all working. With Fabric, we've actually got a wide variety of courses. So I say there's the data fundamentals. We've also got a Fabric analyst in a day, which is actually quite an interesting course. We go and get data from Snowflake and other day SQL and other sources and ingest it all and go create a database. I've taught that a few times now. I really like that one. Then there's a whole series of 1-day courses. So if you want to focus on lakehouses, you've got the DP601. I'd actually recommend if you want to go into a 1-day course on Fabric, I actually think the implementing a lakehouse is actually better than Fabric Analyst in a Day because it teaches you more. Fabric Analyst in a Day is really just it's really just a 1-day lab, whereas Fabric Lakehouse is really good. If you're if you're a data warehousing person, you want to learn how warehouses go with Fabric, you do DP602. That's a 1-day course. So if you're interested in real time, the DP603. or data science DP604. Now, all of those 4 courses have an applied skill. So an applied skill is where you get a lab environment and you have to go and you produce some classes. They're free at the moment. There's also a 1-day course on doing Power BI with Fabric. And then there's the certification courses, which are very much role-based. They've got the DP600 and the DP700. Now, there is a certain amount of overlap between them on the data engineering side, because to do the Fabric analytics, you'd have to do a bit of engineering, getting the data in, but it's really about creating visuals from it. They're both 4-day courses. They both lead to certifications. And I recommend both of those. I teach, again, I think I taught the DP600 last week or the week before. I'll lose track. Very popular course on that. But again, it covers quite a lot. I mean, we cover lakehouses, warehouses. We cover a tiny bit of real time. We don't do anything on machine learning. Data engineering is really going much deeper into things like PySpark. One of the big differences is data engineering, we talk about PySpark, whereas DP6 are very much focused on data flows and pipelines for doing the data and transformation. Data engineering, we also get into Custo as well in a bit more detail. It's really, I think it's much more hardcore data engineering. So I've over a minute, but sorry about that. I've over a little bit because I could talk all day on this. Really, what we're trying to do is unlock data so we can improve decisions. And Power BI and Fabric can do this. It just depends on the scale. And I'm a really big fan of Fabric to create that unified data, to consolidate into a single source of truth in one lake. We have single data, and there's lots of things I haven't talked about, like the Fabric has things like shortcuts, so I don't need to copy data. And really, we're about enabling people to do their own intelligence. So hopefully, I've given you an understanding of some of the analytics, the power of analytics. By creating a single view of your data. Hopefully, I've given you a little insight to Power BI and Fabric and how they're used together. Because I know when I first started looking at Fabric, how does it fit together? What does Fabric do over Power BI? And then we talked about some of the skills that you need and some of the learning material that's available. So thank you for that. There's a thing in the chat that to do feedback for us, please. So if you have any questions, I see Wendy's doing that. I don't think it's actually publicised, Wendy, that advanced data visualization course. It's generally run on demand. But if you want to contact Readynez, and they'll see if they do that. I haven't run it. To be honest, I haven't run it for over a year, which is it's what I've got. It's got quite a lot of what I call custom courses that we do. When somebody says I've got like a whole catalogue of custom courses. When somebody says I want to have this, we pick a course, but they're not publicly available on the website. But I can give you some more info. I'll pay some information about it. Oh, sharing the slides. Yes, I can. I'm going to give you a link to the slides. I can add this ready. So that's going into the slides into there now. See if you can open that. It's in my OneDrive. So any